So I created a community. It's a free Facebook group, and it is this whole kind of concept of, you don't want to drive in traffic. I mean, right now it makes even more sense because no one's really driving to the office anymore. Some people are, but it's the on the surface. It's I don't want to go into an office. I don't want to work 9 to 5. I don't want to sit in traffic. I don't want to have a boss telling me what to do. That's kind of on the surface of it. That's what we think of when we think of, the dream job. But it's so much more than that. It's taking back control of your 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week, that's a long time to be working for someone else, doing something you don't like to do, commuting, traveling, and not spending time with your family, doing what you love, all those things. So underneath that, it's that sense of fulfillment and empowerment, and I can be successful working for myself. I can be my own boss, and my success is based on how hard I work, and I can do it from the comfort of my home on my sofa. I can stay home with my kids. I can, do all the things. I can grocery shop in the middle of the day when it's not crowded. It's just little things that get you. So yeah, that's really what it's all about, is the idea of screw the commute. I don't want to go into work. I don't want to work for someone else. But it's really that empowered and being your own boss and just taking life by the horns and going for it. Oh yeah, the internet. I mean, look at what we're doing now. You're in California. I'm in Colorado. That's an amazing office. And yeah, and the power of the internet and what that has brought to our generation is incredible. Our parents didn't have this opportunity, and I think we're just starting to see the shift. Because when I first got into online business, I used to work 9 to 5s. That's all I ever knew. I went to college, I worked the 9 to 5, I worked for someone else. Never in a million years did I ever dream of owning my own company. So, but you're presented with options. And I think I learned about it in Facebook groups of all places. Here we are now. This was 5 years ago. So the shift is happening. And with coronavirus, it's in our face happening. So, oh yeah, absolutely. And it's presenting people with alternative options that are genuine. And 9 times out of 10, you can make more money than you do in your 9 to 5. And you're happier. And you're working for yourself, not some, crap boss that tells you what to do that probably doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. Yeah, huge growth. So last year, no, end of 2018. So I'm a web developer by trade. Never had any knowledge of coding or web development throughout school, did my 9 to 5, nothing. And I just fell into it randomly, fell in love with it. And that's where I kind of fell into I could do this as a real job. Never had any luck finding real employment with it. So I started my own business. And a few years in, after doing it myself and running an agency and all that, a lot of people were asking me, how did you learn to do these skills? How did you learn to code? And did you go to a boot camp? And, did you spend 20 grand? And, all these things. Did you get a degree? None of that. I learned from Google and YouTube, which isn't really the right way to go, I would argue. It is a way to go, so I started teaching other people how to code and build websites and then build their own online business, find clients and all that sort of stuff. So this past spring, my business has blown up quite a lot because a lot of people are looking for a way to work from home and to start their own business. And I get it. Not everyone is techie. And, I say the word code and I say the word web development and people kind of go, whoa, and they freak out. However, I like to flip that on its head and kind of say, well, you may not know that it is something that you would love. I didn't until I tried it. So that's always my argument, is give it a go. If you hate it, I get it. It's not for everyone, but it could be the career that kind of turns things around and you love what you do and you can work from home. So yeah, it has been quite a year for people learning to code.
Yeah, totally. Well, and you were saying too, that you've started a coding boot camp for kids, right? Recently. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
And so what kind of, did you see that as an opportunity to help kids who are starting to learn from home? Or was that something you feel like was already in the works to be like, hey, like I want to reach out to the younger generation to help them prepare for the skills that you can make a great living online?
Yeah. So back in April, I've always, ever since I started teaching, it's always been adults, which is awesome. But ever since I started, I've always really loved the idea of teaching kids to code. And I know there's a lot of programs out there, but there's, is it fun? Is it, and it not just coding, but creating things online, like Zoom virtual backgrounds or AutoCAD for kids. So creating 3D stuff that you can go and take to a 3D printer and create. Creative writing, graphic design, building websites. The whole camp kind of has tons of stuff that's for kids to code and create. So back in April, it was end of March, beginning of April, right when COVID was like at its peak. Schools were shutting down, kids were at home, parents were kind of going, God, what am I going to do with my kids? And I thought this is a perfect opportunity. I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to build a kids coding camp, completely free, offer it and to my email list, and maybe a few hundred people will be interested. 2,000 plus.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe a few hundred.
I know it did. It really was awesome. And the testimonials, every day we had a Facebook group and we had challenges for the kids to go through, and when they completed stuff, their parents would post in the Facebook group, and the excitement and the feeling of empowerment that the kids had, and like the kids couldn't wait to show their parents. And it would be hey mom, can I have 10 more minutes of screen time because I'm learning how to code, not I'm wasting mindless hours watching YouTube. So that, from the parents' perspective, that's what they kept saying to me, is they could have as much screen time as they wanted because it was positive, it was guilt-free. They were learning something, they were building, they were creating, and siblings were doing it together. Friends in schools were Zooming together and doing it and sharing what they'd done, building video games, building apps on their phones. So this is the sort of stuff that they got to do in the 3 weeks. So we ran that, and it was just such an awesome thing, such a big success. We've turned it around, and now we've just recently started kind of running it again, just in the last week. So yeah, it's so fun to see kids, and it's not just the fun part of learning to code and create, but we have an additional kind of add-on course that they can take that is for entrepreneurial kids. So if a kid doesn't want to sell lemonade, or they don't want to babysit or mow the lawn, and they want to help their parents in their business, they want to create social media graphics for their parents, they want to help their neighbor with their G Suite, whatever it could be. They want to build a website for their neighbor who can't go into their shop anymore because foot traffic has come down. So they want to build something. We teach them those skills. So it's really cool to kind of see kids learn fun skills that they can use in their future, but also, hey, you want to make some money and do something for your neighbor? We've got stuff on that too. So.
One thing I love hearing about this too is, so screw the commute can mean a lot of things. At least, obviously you ditch the 9 to 5, but also within the context of what you're doing, it's serving those who want to build tech-related careers. Coding has to do with it. I know WordPress is a big part of your world. Web design, development. When you first kind of ventured, I guess, what was the turning point when you were being a service provider for others doing WordPress that you're like, well, wait a minute, this goes far beyond than just, say, a platform of WordPress and tech support in some ways. I can build something bigger, more of a movement out of this, and serve both the current working class, but also the future as well.
Yeah, so it was, I remember it like it was yesterday. So my husband used to be in the military, and then he retired, and we didn't know what he was going to do for work after. So I have this business that I can do from anywhere. So we thought, let's live in an RV. So we sold everything, and we lived in an RV for 1.5 years. And as we're traveling, I'm documenting out on Instagram. And the amount of people that would reach out on Instagram and say, well, are you independently wealthy? Are your parents paying for this? How can you afford to travel and what do you do for work? So I'd say, I would tell them what I did for work and how I taught myself. And it was always, I want to learn. I want to know how to do that because I want the lifestyle that you have. So I thought, okay, I'll try. So I created a free 5-day coding challenge, exactly how I learned, but in a more kind of structured way, just how I thought if I were to relearn, how would I want to learn? And I tried to put that into play. So I created this, and it was more successful than I ever thought. People loved it, and we want to learn more. We want to learn more. Like, show us more and teach us more. The clients and the online business and the whole shebang. So that's kind of how it happened. But it was completely organic. And I always wanted to. There's something in the kind of coding web development world that is not very nice. There's people who look down on you if you didn't get an education, if you haven't worked for Google, if all these things. Yeah. And I really hated that. And I think as women, we took it a lot harder. We're a lot more sensitive. We take things harder. And to kind of break into the tech world as a female, it's tough. There's not as many, and recruiters are looking for the degrees and all these things. And I would join Facebook groups like coders and web developers, and that people were just mean. They were rude. They were not supportive. There was no community, build each other up sort of feel, which is very off-putting for a female. So the big thing that I really wanted to create was a community of mostly women, but I got a ton of really awesome guys in my community as well, who support each other and encourage each other, and we celebrate wins, and we tell each other, we share what we've done, and we can ask the silly questions that you wouldn't be comfortable asking in a group full of men that will make you feel bad about yourself. So that was probably the thing. And I say this, don't worry, I love men.
You're married to one. Yeah, no, it's fine.
So that was a really important thing for me because I didn't have that when I was learning. And I know that my journey would have been much better, much easier, and a lot quicker. It took me a long time to kind of get to where I am if I had a community like that. So that's one of the things that, and that's my Geek Pack community. That I love more than anything is that community.
Yeah, I love hearing that perspective because I would say it definitely speaks to the struggles that women and some men, but primarily definitely women have with stepping into the tech space because what you may see saying like Silicon Valley and the tech startups, it's very male driven, at least on the surface, right? Even for me, and maybe you don't know this, but my my bachelor's degree was in information technology. And so I love tech, like I love Word, all these things. Like I've done web design and development, and I saw very heavily, a male presence. And so women were definitely involved, but I believe, it's definitely like what you're charting is a path not only for women, but for a whole mindset shift, perspective shift around what's possible. It's not just for those who, you don't have to be a massive nerd. I'm just going to say you don't have to be a massive nerd. And I feel like that's an underlying belief and myth that exists is, there's a whole variety of different people. And I think even more now, and part of what you're definitely doing is changing that perspective around those who do take part in tech and coding, all this stuff that it's a really cool thing to do, and that it really is the future, right? You mentioned it. You're creating apps, you're creating software, you're creating the future of what like society will be built on, which is a lot of it is automation and tech. And so it's highly in demand for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about myths, because I should have mentioned that before. There are so many kind of myths that go along with the type of person that learns how to code. And I love crushing that myth any chance I get. And I've multiple women in their 70s who are learning to code, and they love it. Like they tell their kids and their grandkids, and they show them what they're doing. And it's just breaking the mold. And maybe it's Hollywood, but then again, I think it is also just, for the most part, it is men. But you don't have to be male. You don't have to be young. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to be geeky or nerdy. You can, so long as you give it a go and you like it, you can be awesome at it. So yeah, absolutely. I love breaking all those myths of gender and everything else, age. So
yeah. Well, to me too, it's kind of like you are literally learning a whole new language, but that applies with any kind of field you were to go into. If you want to be, a doctor of any sorts, you've got to learn a language specific to that. If you want to go into marketing, there's a language for that. And so no matter what kind of path you choose, it goes without saying, you kind of have to learn a whole new language, even if it's not like a foreign. I mean, it's still in some ways foreign, right? But to me, that's a powerful aspect too, is it's shifting this way, but also this idea of screwing the commute is also opening up a lot of people's eyes, I believe, around the working opportunities that are available online. Especially now, it's needed now more than ever. And you, like, the timing of what you've done, it, like, kind of two things is incredible to me. And part of the reason why I wanted to, chat with you about it again is this idea that obviously in 2020, a lot of people are having to work from home virtually already. And so there's that aspect of like, okay, how can you offer a tech service providing job to make money, wherever you may be? But also some people are losing their jobs, or some people are wanting to look for a change. And so screwing that commute is going to have to be the reality for a lot of people in the future, because office spaces are going to dry up and close down, and a lot more people are going to be in their RVs or in their homes, right? Following the model that you kind of went on. And so I think you're definitely living proof that it's possible. And a lot of us who are putting that shift and focus online recognize that opportunity and have that vision for what's happening, but also what's to come as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I always say to people, this is not like, if you think I want to learn how to code or learn web development, it's not a get rich quick thing. You got to put the work in to learn something. Like you said, you're learning a new language, you're learning new things. But if you have that learning mindset and the troubleshooting and the problem solving skills to see something and go, I can figure that out, I'm going to Google it. I can figure that out, I'm going to ask someone. Then you can literally figure out just about anything. That's what's really cool about the age that we're in, and the resources that we have on the internet. It's just that mindset I can do this. And then when you figure out something, when you break through that barrier of it's not working, I broke it, I can't figure out why, and then you do it, is better than anything ever. The wins that I see all the time of people, from I figured out this little bit of code to I got my highest paying client, whatever that win is so awesome to see. So much success for people from all over the world, all ages, all genders, and knowing that they can be successful from wherever they are, regardless of what's going on with COVID.
For sure. For those listening or watching, no matter where you are in your journey, I mean, what you just said there was perfect in the fact that we can all believe that we have what it takes. You know, you got to put in the work, but that also doesn't mean you have to work 9 to 5 to put in the work, or in some cases 10 to 10, you know, or, you know, it's, I think that's totally based on how you create that lifestyle. You can get in control of what that schedule looks like. It definitely also takes some time and effort to do that. I'm curious. So with my time in IT and coding, I'm curious of your perspective on this kind of this metaphor and analogy. But for those listening or watching, think about this for you. So when you're coding, right? Like whether it's a database or make an app, how many times, Julia, have you wanted to throw your computer out the window because there's one character missing in the program, or, you know, it doesn't run correctly, so there's an error. There's better solutions where they help you troubleshoot, but, you know, it's troubleshooting, say, one error in hundreds to thousands of lines of code that you need to resolve in order to be successful with what you're building. I've been in those shoes. I'm sure you have, right, Julia? You get so frustrated.
All the time. I mean, I want to throw the computer out the window, blow it up, everything, many times. And that never goes away because it's, you know, you're constantly learning, and, you know, a slip of the keyboard and all of a sudden it can break and you may not know where that is. So we have in our community, we have that all the time, people sharing screenshots and saying, and if you look at it for too long, you will miss it. But if you step away and get another set of eyes, they'll find it just like that. So yeah, all the time. But and when I learned, it was all by myself, which is not the way to learn at all. Learning in a vacuum is not good, especially this. Because if I couldn't figure something out, I would spend hours and hours and hours and get frustrated, and then, you know, weeks or days. Whereas now, if something like that comes up, it's get another set of eyes on it and ask for help. And then all of a sudden that solution will kind of come through to you. So, that's completely normal. That'll never stop.
So normal. Yeah, never stops. And it's fun. I love that you brought in this aspect of having other people to see it, because oftentimes you find that if you're like, I've spent hours on trying to figure out and troubleshoot this issue, and then someone comes and looks at it right away, they see the problem exactly where you're looking, and you're like, well, what? Do you have a different pair of eyes than I do? Like, what's going on here? They have a different perspective. But, you know, what we're saying with this example, like, I believe applies to this idea of what we're trying to do in our lives or in our business is, you know, it may not be lines of code. It may be, you know, we're building the business, or we're trying to manage doing school with our kids at home, or dealing with losing a job. And there are plenty of issues that we have to troubleshoot and resolve and figure out. And a lot of times, we can do it ourselves with some effort, or we need other perspectives brought in, whether it's from a coaching perspective, or, you know, like what you do in your communities, or it's from a friend or a colleague. You know, the list goes on. But that's, to me, it's so fascinating that just that one example of, like, you have to do that. But guess what? Even if you troubleshoot and fix one program, you're going to be working on another one, and that's going to break at some point, and you have to keep on resolving. So there's always going to be issues that come up that need to be resolved.
Absolutely. Just like life. You're right. And
just
if you
like
can,
life.
You can troubleshoot and just having a mindset of knowing that you can figure anything out. I think it's Marie Forleo has the book, Figureoutable. I love that, because everything is figureoutable, but you have to be in the right mindset. And even just something as simple as learning to code, it opens up your mind. You go, oh wow, I've just done something I never ever thought I could do. What else can I do in personal, professional life, in whatever you're doing? All of a sudden it's oh wow, if I could do that, could I do this or could I do that? And then all of a sudden it's like so many other opportunities just in something as simple as learning a tech skill that you never thought you could do because of what Hollywood says. So that's what I really love is seeing kind of those things come to light and the light bulbs.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that. So with what you've done so much this year, particularly to help those in the situation of, what the pandemic has caused, whether you're lost in job, needing, to screw the 9 to 5 or screw the commute. But what do you see as the future? Let's say beyond 2020. What's going to happen for, this idea of screwing the commute and needing to build a new type of business for people?
So I think it's going to continue down the way that we've seen this year, because I think so many big companies are realizing that their employees don't physically have to be in the location for life is still going on. Yes, it's different, but life is still going on. So, and you made a really good point earlier. Of course, I'm a big proponent of screw the commute, leave the job, start your own business, but that may not be what a lot of people want. So, and now we're in this space of you can work from home and you're probably more productive. You probably get more done. You probably have more free time. And then all of a sudden you're able to do things at home, still have the job. And maybe you want to check out something on the side like you did, a side hustle to see if that develops and turns into something else. But I think what we're seeing now is going to continue and grow into the future. I mean, even virtual learning, that is probably not, I don't think we're going to go back to how it was, but next year we will probably see some sort of morph of what we're seeing now and in the past, with more stuff to come. But there's so much virtual learning, universities. Google recently is coming out with an online degree of some sorts. I just saw an article about it. So yeah, they're doing something that is apparently going to kind of throw the university system around. But I didn't actually read the article. I just saw the headline. So yeah, I think we're definitely, this is a shift that probably would have come eventually, but because of COVID, it's happened very quickly, and people are responding. And those that respond and take it for what it is and run with it, awesome. If you're kind of the mindset of, no, I want to go back to the normal, I want to go back to what it was before, you might be a little bit slower and maybe a little bit left behind, because I think we are going to continue on this trajectory.
Yeah, that prediction and perspective, I believe is definitely accurate. And I know for me, like in some ways, I've kind of been bothered, to be honest, around it's not going back to normal. Like, get used to the new normal, because we've gotten so comfortable with how life has been, and a lot of times, like, I think I viewed that normalcy of like, oh, the mask wearing to, the wellness of society, like the health side. But there's also normalcy of a lot of businesses have gone out of business, or there's going to be a lot of new business opportunity now that will be part of this new normal. So I think if we change that perspective around how we can view the future of what exists and opportunities, I think will change a lot. And I would also venture to say that, as you've referenced, with virtual learning, like Google's doing this thing, there's going to be more disruption, I think, happening with education. There's already some unrest around like, oh, my kids don't learn virtually perfectly this way, or I'm tired of the public school system. I was already homeschooling. But what I would love to see, and I imagine will definitely happen in a bigger way, are basically different online education platforms that allow people, like whether kids or adults, to truly learn based on like kind of choosing your own adventure. In a way, where it's maybe you can relate to this, Julia, and those listening, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was young. Like, and I also feel like they take you through such a general studies experience. They don't really prepare you for the real world around like, oh, here's where my strengths are. So I'm going to lean into that and just focus on that study. Instead, you're forced to go do calculus multiple times over when you don't use any of those skill sets really at all the rest of your career, depending on what field you go into, or, sciences and different examples like that. But I believe there's going to be online education platforms that are created that are like yours, where it's for a niche, a very specific type of people. Or maybe it's, you've got tutors and teachers who are online, or in-person educators, where you pay for your schooling through an online portal and you get access to all the materials. And then you go through courses that not only teach you the essentials that you need, at a young age, and you can get access to tutors and training that way, one-on-one, but also a way that it prepares you for the real world around having access to like, hey, how do I buy my first home, or how do I do my taxes? Like a lot of these skills that you never really learn. Like maybe you're lucky and your parents taught you a few of them, but you never learn them in school, and then you're forced to adult, the adulting phase, and I feel like that's really a lost opportunity that exists. That when we can customize education based on the type of learner, and have a platform where that's available. I don't know, like that's a large undertaking, and I don't know who or how that will come together. But I believe with the traditional school systems, there's going to be even more disruption happening, and 2020 just may be that bigger turning point that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think disruption is the perfect word for it, and I don't think it's. I think it's a negative and a positive, because it's change, and people have to adjust, and it's kind of forced on everyone. But yet it is also forcing us to take a look at what we currently are doing, and is it right? Is it not right? And what's an alternative option? I love the choose your own adventure idea. That is genius. I loved those books when I was a kid, and I would always go back and figure out what are all the different paths. But you're right, knowing just regular adulting skills, which saying that word makes me cringe. Adulting. I don't want.
I don't usually use it, but I was like, well, I'll throw it out. Why not?
Yes, it's good. And yeah, just things like that, but also kind of real world skills that you wouldn't learn. I mean, I only just figured out a couple years ago what I want to be when I grow up, and I was in my mid-30s when I figured that out. So trying to get kids to figure that out when they're young is hard. Some people know, like my husband knew when he was like 10, he wanted to be a Marine. So that's what he did. Some people know they want to be doctors, they want to be a vet, they want to be, whatever the thing is, and they do it. But I would say 90% of people don't.
Yes.
So how do we cater to that other? Because everyone has a skill. Everyone has something that they lean towards, that they love, that they're good at, that can be turned into a job of some sort. So it's just tapping into that to figure out. And I don't know who's going to do it, but probably Google.
Yeah. Someone who has incredible resources and can throw together, the platform. Well, it's fascinating too, because I think of there's all these little broken things that I remember as far as the attempts that didn't fully work. I mean, I don't know if you ever took the surveys around like career advancement that would ask you, would you rather save people from a burning building, or I don't know, like take out garbage or something. So it's like, do you want to be garbage man or firefighter? I was like, neither actually. So how are you gonna know what I want to be and then it's like it limits you to such a small box that doesn't even consider the amount of unclaimed or jobs that we don't even know exist yet. Where, even in like, I just discovered a short 2-3 years ago what was available online as an online business. And that was introduced me from our common, friend, Julie, who was introduced by someone else. So to me, it's just like this ripple effect that's happening right now. That's causing a whole shift in movement and a disruption. And so I think for those who may be struggling to see opportunity or knowing how to screw the night or screw the commute, I think it's shifting the perspective around, well, how can I take advantage of what's happening right now?
Yes.
Because there's too many opportunities to count, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's easy for us to say because we're in it and we've been in it. We're aware of all the opportunities, but just letting people know that those opportunities exist, and saying, you could do this, you could do this. What about this? And kind of, there's so many until you realize, like when you grow up, you're not really told you can be an entrepreneur. Like that's not really something that is.
Or it's like a stigma. Like people are like, oh, so you're gonna be broke. For some reason, people associate it with being broke. Yeah.
Yeah. So unless your parents are, you may not know. And I never thought that this was an option. It was always go to college, get a job. That was it. So, and I think that's what a lot of people have just followed on in their footsteps. So yeah, it is kind of eye-opening, and it's hey, there's this whole other world out there. I mean, there's the virtual online space and the things that you can do, and the success that you can have, and all that is massive. So yeah, it's exciting to see the shift in the world, really.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so what is to kind of wrap up these thoughts? What's next for you as far as like what you would love to see happen with your community and this movement of screwing the commute?
Oh gosh, I mean, everything we've talked about. The thing that I love, there's two things that I really, really love. Seeing students of all ages, because now I'm fortunate that I get to teach kids, and from 7 to 77, literally. Seeing their success and their wins is so amazing. And I never, ever thought that I would teach ever. I was always something like, oh, no, but it's so rewarding to see other people have success with something that you are able to share with them. So just more of that is the big thing that I want. And I've recently started growing my team, and I, again, never thought that I would want to have a team, but I love it. Love having a team of people that are just as passionate about the mission as I am, to really kind of push it forward and reach more kids and more adults and more people, and kind of say, hey, this is an option. This is a real, genuine opportunity. Look at all the other people that are having success. That could be you, sort of thing. So those are the things that I'm loving right now, or the teaching and the successes, and then the growing the team. And if I can just keep doing that, yeah, happiest person ever.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Well, would you ever go back to the RV life? I know you guys bought a home in Colorado. No.
No. I mean, to be fair, I think we have one of those tents on our truck, so we still go and camp.
Yeah.
But we came from very much of a the rougher camping versus the RV. So when we got into the RV and kind of did that, it was like, this isn't quite what we expected. So I don't think we would go back to the big RV like we did. And we love where we live so much. We take the tent and we'll go to Moab, or we'll go up into the mountains in Colorado. But coming to a home base has been really, really nice. So yeah, I think we'll just travel for fun occasionally.
Yeah. Well, I think your RV looks so high class. So it looked like you literally had a mobile home going around with you everywhere.
Yeah.
Good. Well, hey, Julie, I appreciate your time. Where do you recommend people go to join this movement of screwing the commute?
Yeah, so if you on Facebook, if you just search for Screw the Commute, I think it's the only one on there. Screw the Commute with Julia Taylor. Free to join. We've got lots of stuff going on in there, constantly, events occasionally and things like that. So that is probably the best place.
Awesome. Well, this has been so good. Thank you so much.
Great. Absolutely. Thank you. It was wonderful to see you and to catch up. And yeah, awesome.
Yeah.